So it's great to be able to come and preach the gospel to you again. I have been informed in the past that if you are a gospel preacher and you pull out the story of Naaman, it means you're scraping the bottom of the barrel. Well, I beg to differ. I think Naaman is a fantastic character study, so that's what we're going to be looking at today. The story of Naaman is found in the Bible in 2 Kings and chapter 5. And it says there, Naaman, commander of the army of the king of Syria, was a great man with his master and in high favour. Because by him the Lord had given victory to Syria. He was a mighty man of valour, but he was a leper. Now the Syrians on one of their raids had carried off a little girl from the land of Israel, and she worked in the service of Naaman's wife. She said to her mistress, "Would that my Lord were with the prophet who is in Samaria. He would cure him of his leprosy." So Naaman went in and told his Lord, "Thus and so spoke the girl from the land of Israel." And the king of Syria said, "Go now, and I will send a letter to the king of Israel." So he went, taking with him 10 talents of silver, 6,000 shekels of gold, and 10 changes of clothing. And he brought the letter to the king of Israel, which read, "When this letter reaches you, know that I have sent to you Naaman my servant, that you may cure him of his leprosy." And when the king of Israel read the letter, he tore his clothes and said, "Am I God to kill and to make alive, that this man sends word to me to cure a man of his leprosy? Only consider, see how he is seeking a quarrel with me." But when Elisha, the man of God, heard that the king of Israel had torn his clothes, he sent to the king, saying, "Why have you torn your clothes? Let him come to me now, that he may know that there is a prophet in Israel." So Naaman came with his horses and his chariots and stood at the door of Elisha's house. And Elisha sent a messenger to him, saying, "Go and wash in the Jordan 7 times, and your flesh shall be restored, and you shall be clean." But Naaman was angry and went away, saying, "Behold, I thought he would surely come out to me, and stand and call on the name of the Lord his God, and wave his hand over the place, and cure the leper. Are not Abana and Pharpar, the rivers of Damascus, better than all the waters of Israel? Could I not wash in them and be clean?" So he turned and went away in a rage. But his servants came near and said to him, "My father, had the prophet told you to do some great thing, would you not have done it? How much more then when he says to you, 'Wash and be clean'?" So he went down and dipped himself 7 times in the Jordan, according to the word of the man of God, and his flesh was restored like that of a little child, and he was clean. So in our story here, in our account of history from the Bible, we have a character called Naaman. And we learn a few things about him. First of all, he was the commander of Syria's army. He was a powerful man, a great warrior. He was a great man with the king, and he was in high favour. He was at the peak of his civilian ambition, the peak of his military ambition. He was the commander of the army, and he was in high favour with the king. He had been victorious, so he was a successful man, and he was a mighty man of valour. He was a brave character. And all these things I'm sure many people would like to be. They'd like to be wealthy, they'd like to be powerful, they'd like to be in high positions of authority, they'd like to be victorious. But there was a but. A very important but, a very big but. But he was a leper. And leprosy in the Bible can cover a variety of different things, as opposed to now where it's a single disease. But in this situation, leprosy was an incurable disease with the medicine they had at the time. It would have made him an outcast of his society for fear that he would pass on his disease to others. So that's Naaman. That's his position. But today I'd like to look at some of the things that we can learn from Naaman that we can apply to our own lives. And so what can we learn from this? Well, Mark chapter 8 verse 36 says this, "For what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and forfeit his soul or lose his soul? For what can a man give in return for his soul? Naaman had a great deal. He had power, he had money, he had influence, he had courage, he had position. But he did not have anything that could help him with his leprosy. He had a problem that was greater than all of his successes. Romans chapter 3 verse 23 says, "For all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God." And a few chapters later in chapter 6 it says, "For the wages of sin is death." This is our position. We might have the whole world at our feet, but we have a problem just like Naaman. Our problem is not that of leprosy, our problem is that of sin. The failings that we have made in our life, the issues, the wrongs that we have done. Naaman had no hope in himself. He had no hope in the wise men of that country, no hope in the doctors that were available to him. Where are we going to source the solution to our problem of sin? Are we going to wise men? Are we going to doctors in the hope that they will fix ours? Or are we trusting in our God? He hears a message, does Naaman. The message comes from a humble source. He hears it from a little girl, a slave girl. It would have been easy for him to have ignored the simple source of the message, but he doesn't. He's so desperate for a solution to his problem that he listens to this little girl. And it was a wise thing for him to have done. He spoke to his king, who then sent Naaman across to Israel. However, the king sent him to the wrong person. And Naaman went to the wrong person. The little girl had said Naaman needs to go to talk to the prophet in Israel. But instead, Naaman went to the king. Maybe you could understand that. Well, the king is the man in charge. He's the man with the authority. He's the man that can make the difference. But the king had no power. As he admitted himself, he did not have the power to deal with leprosy. Who are we going to find our help? Are we going to shaman or priests? Are we going to philosophers or politicians? Are we going to imams or mediums to find a solution to our problems? Are we going to them for wisdom? Are we going to them for hope of our eternal destiny? Naaman came with all of his horses and all of his chariots, with all the pomp that he could gather to the house of Israel, to the house of Elisha. He finally got to the right person, but he came in the wrong manner. He came with all his pride, and Elisha, clearly aware of this, put his finger on the problem, and he didn't even go to the door. He poked the bear, if you will. This great and powerful man who was used to having servants do his bidding, when he arrived at the prophet's door, the prophet simply sent one of his little servants. And here we see a little bit of the foreshadowing of the issue that Naaman's going to have when it comes to receiving the message that he is given. The question is, what do we think of ourselves? How important are we in our own estimation? Is our wisdom greater than that of the Bible? Is our power greater than that of God's? Do we think we know better? What was Naaman told to do? It was quite simple what he was told to do. He was told to go and wash 7 times in the River Jordan. The question is, what have we been told to do? Have we been given a simple message? And the answer is yes. If we were to read Acts chapter 16 verse 30, there's a jailer there who asks, "Sirs, what must I do to be saved?" And the Christians that he's talking to give him a simple message in response. They say, believe in the Lord Jesus Christ and you will be saved. Much like Naaman, who was told just to wash 7 times in a river, the jailer was told, just believe. Believe in the Lord Jesus Christ and you will be saved. Not you might be saved, not you could be saved, you will be saved. What did Naaman do when he was given this simple message, this simple task to achieve? He had a little tantrum. Because it didn't go as he thought it should go. He thought that the prophet was going to come out and do some great thing. He was going to call loudly on his God and wave his hands. And it would be a very spiritual and religious experience. And that was what he was looking for. He was looking for the big. He was looking for the pomp. He was looking for the power. And what he got was a simple thing to do. And that upset him. It didn't go as he wanted it to. And so he came up with a better option. He said, well, why do I have to wash in this river? If I'm going to wash in a river, I should wash in Abana and Pharpar in Damascus. They're much better rivers. So surely that'll be better. Instead of simply listening to the thing that he was told to do, he came up with his own ideas. Oh, it'd be much better if we did this. Do we think that we know better than God? Do we think that we need to go on pilgrimages? Because that's better than simply believing. Do we think we need to go through certain religious rites? Because that's better than simply believing. Do we think that we need to give to charities and to the church? Because obviously that's better than simply believing. Do we think we need to make life changes? Because that's obviously better than simply believing. Do we think we need to do good deeds as better than simply believing, as we've been told to do? And here we see somebody coming in and intervening. In the story of Naaman, it is his servants that come. And they say to him, if you'd been asked to do some great thing, if you'd been asked to climb a mountain, swim a sea, defeat great enemies, ride your chariot at great speed, would you not have done those things? You're being asked to do something that is simple, to deal with your problem. If you're willing to do all the hard stuff, why are you not willing to just take the easy step that you've been given? So Naaman washed, and he was clean. Guys, I want you to understand that we have been given a simple thing to do, to deal with our problem of sin. Someone else has done all the hard work. When Christ cried out on the cross of Calvary, Tetelestai, it is finished, he was saying, the job is done. There is no more pilgrimages needing done, no religious rites, no giving, no life changes, no good deeds, no imams needed to talk to, no priests, no philosophers. We just need to believe. Believe in the Lord Jesus Christ and you will be saved. John chapter 6 verse 37 says this. It's Jesus that is talking. And it says, all that the Father gives to me will come to me. And whoever comes to me, I will never cast out. This is not us getting our salvation and then working to keep our salvation. Jesus is saying, if you come to me, I will accept you, just as you are. Sinners though you may be, he will give us righteousness. If you believe on the Lord Jesus Christ, you will be saved. But you do need to believe. Thanks very much for listening. I believe it's myself again next week, so sorry, you'll have to tolerate that.